How's it going, Hotshot? You know, I got to admit, I thought we had you in Cleveland. Come on, tell me, how'd you do it?
Get to the deal.
What?
You need me for something. What is it? Show him.
Hey, Adrenalheads. Welcome back. I'm Mark.
And I'm Frank.
And it's been a long while since we put out an episode, but we are back and we talked about covering this. So Frank and I finally got a chance to sit down and talk about this movie that I promoted a while ago, Escape from LA from 1996, which was directed by John Carpenter. And we're going to be continuing our lovely Snake Plissken and Kurt Russell movie extravaganza that John Carpenter has created in his world, because he worked with them several times over the years. And yeah, so we're going to continue that. This movie was produced by Deborah Hill and Kurt Russell.
Right.
It was written by John Carpenter, Nick Castle, and Deborah Hill. And music was done by John Carpenter and Alan Howarth. And the tagline, Frank?
Tagline that I found was, in 2013, nobody gets out of LA alive until now.
So the movie's budget was $50 million back then. So kind of modest for its time.
Yeah.
For movies that were coming out. If you think about like movies that were in the 90s, like Jurassic Park, that were like $100 million. And
right.
Back then, that was the big budgets. Well, unfortunately, this movie was a box office flop. It only made $42.3 million at the box office.
You know what, though? I mean, at this point, John Carpenter's used to seeing the movies not do well in the theater.
Yes.
And they gain a following later on. And that's many of his movies. There are very few of them start off like where Halloween was, where everybody was like, oh, man, you got to check out Halloween.
Yeah, I think a lot of his movies just become cult classics that everybody goes, and his name is very well known, and everybody uses him as like a reference, as influence and inspiration for their work, whether it be horror, suspense, thriller.
Yep.
And he has a legacy based upon this cult status. I would love to eventually meet this man at a convention and pick his brain for like 5-10 minutes if I give him the moment. But unfortunately, I haven't been to a con in a while. And Jamie, as we all know from this podcast, she and I cover Invincible and Panels to Pixels, and we cover Sandman Cast on Podcastica, and we will be continuing that, everybody. I think she mentioned that he was going to be at a convention, so he's making appearances here and there. So if you get the chance, do meet the man. He's getting up there in his years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe he's in his 70s. He's 76 years old. So, yeah. And, he definitely has a legacy of films. I'm a fan. Frank's a fan. Jerry, who we had on the podcast, is a huge fan. Same thing with Jamie herself. So we just love the idea of, and the world that John Carpenter creates. Mm-hmm. So Escape from LA scored 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb. It has a 54% Rotten Tomatoes, or on the Tatometer, I guess.
Yeah.
And 54% Metacritic. So it's halfway there when it comes to critically acclaimed. But if you do ask a fan, they'll, like us, we would say we enjoy this film. I was looking forward to it back then when it came out. And me and my buddy Jared are huge John Carpenter fans. We love to go see this. So at the time, we brought our girlfriends opening day to go see this. So we're sitting there, and my girlfriend at the time knew I liked cheesy camp, all this stuff. She knew I was a Carpenter fan. She's seen John Carpenter films. She knew of Escape from LA. Jared's girlfriend, or the girl he was dating at the time, really didn't. But both of them looked at us at the end of the film going, what was that? What was your experience, Frank? Did you see it in the theater, or you?
I actually did see it in the theater, and I vaguely remember I might have even seen it with Rob
Of
because I
course.
was already a huge fan of John Carpenter, Halloween,
Mm.
Escape from New York, The Thing. So once I knew that they were making a sequel, and of course, if you ever see Escape from New York and you don't think that Snake Plissken is like the coolest man on earth, come on. I mean, that's just one of the, like, when you hear there's a sequel coming out, you're like, Escape from LA, dude, I'm there. And when we went to see it in the theater, and, you know, is it as good as Escape from New York? For me, I don't think so.
No.
But we can get into that as
Yeah.
we go along. But I enjoyed the movie for
Okay.
what it was. At the time, it was the CGI and everything like that. We were just getting used to that. That stuff was just coming in.
Mhm.
Now it's very, very dated. Like, you look at the CGI and you're like, man. No. But at that point, we were just sitting there like, oh man, look, he's surfing on sewage. It's awesome.
He's surfing on sewage. I just love that. Look, there are like I said, this was a far cry from the original Escape from New York when you watch it. And the first one was meant to be dark,
right?
Grimacing, it's apocalyptic. That's the world that we're in. We're introduced to it. There was the ongoing, oh, you're Snake Plissken. I thought you were dead.
Right.
They kind of changed that up in this film.
I thought you were taller.
Which is funny too, because Kurt Russell is not really all that tall himself too.
Yeah.
And so the way they lead that into the film is pretty cool. I like that.
Tonally, I agree tonally that it's very different from Escape from New York in that they're both dark and gritty in their own ways, but there's a little bit more comedy in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like more tongue in cheek and poking it fun at itself too.
But the story beats there's very similar story beats to Escape from New York in this one. And we'll get into that.
We'll get into that as we walk you through it. If you have not seen the film, you're just like listening to get an idea before you actually do see it. And you're probably at this point thinking to yourself, do I really want to watch it? You know what? I always tell people, watch the film, get it, make your own opinion, because you can't go according to critics. You can't really go according to people who are highly critical of films. Mm-hmm. You like what you like. This is why we do what we do. So yeah, just go watch it. And obviously this is spoiler full, people.
Oh, so yeah, for sure. We're going to be covering everything.
And the movie's, we're in 2024, so it's 28 years old.
Yeah.
So, but the synopsis for this, did you find a different one than what I put in, or do you?
No, that's the same.
So the synopsis, Frank, what is it?
The year is 2013, and Snake Plissken is back. But this time it's LA, which through the agency of earthquakes has become an island of the damned. But something has gone wrong in the new moral order, because the president's daughter has absconded to LA with a detonation device, and Snake is commandeered to retrieve it. But just below the surface, there is a coiled snake ready to strike.
That synopsis itself has a little bit of cheese in it too. But I found that online.
It does, but that's okay.
Yeah, it does, but yeah. So this movie actually has a lot of well-known people, and we're going to go into the people we may know within the film and other work and we'll mention other work that they've done, obviously. So I kind of threw in a ton of stuff, so I'm sure Frank's looking at it going, what the? So
that's okay.
He's going to pick and choose what he wants to suggest as movies that these people were in. But start us off, Frank.
All right. We got, of course, the great Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. And we are no stranger to Mr. Russell here on the podcast. There's a few of his other works that we may know him from. Mm-hmm. Of course, we've already mentioned The Thing. Come on. I was about to say Halloween, but I was like, he wasn't in Halloween. John Carpenter just directed it.
It'd be fun if he was.
Tango and Cash, Tombstone, Death Proof, The Hateful Eight. He's in the Fast and Furious movies, Fast and Furious 7 specifically, Fate of the Furious, Fast 9. And of course, he's crossed over into the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Guardians of the Galaxy. He played Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He's also played along with his son Wyatt Russell in Monarch Legacy of Monsters on Apple Plus.
Yeah, which I actually covered with Ben Beck on Wilhelm/podcast. It was a combination podcast that we did for that. And we will be back too. So that's good news. Monarch Legacy of Monsters has been approved and announced that they're coming back for season 2.
Awesome.
So you'll hear Ben rip into me every week again. And I will have fun with that. We just like have fun with each other and stuff. He just likes to egg me on. But up next would be AJ Langer, and she played Utopia, which was the president's daughter. She's she's a former American film actress. She's mostly known for playing Caroline Larkin in season 2 of Baywatch as Rayanne Graff. She was also on the television series My So-Called Life, I actually do remember her from. I don't know why. I don't remember her from Baywatch. I was not an avid Baywatch viewer like my grandmother was. That's an ongoing joke because when my grandmother was staying with my family when she had cancer and everything, and I'd come into the room and she's got Baywatch on nonstop. But I don't know. Hey,
if it made her happy.
It made her happy. She was also known, and this is another movie I do enjoy. It's a Wes Craven movie, The People Under the Stairs.
Yeah, that's another one that's really underrated.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Craven fan as well. But she has kind of left Hollywood. She married somebody. Apparently, the guy was a lawyer, but they wound up divorcing. I don't know, about a couple of years ago, maybe. And she was known as almost like a duchess because he had ties to England. So she's since then moved back, and she does a lot of work for fibromyalgia. She does a lot of benefits and stuff like that. So because she knows it, because she has it. So just a little information on AJ. A very pretty girl and woman, I should say now. But that's what always captivated me, and I always remembered her, especially from My So-Called Life, because that's where I remembered her from.
Yeah, she is definitely in this movie. One of the things that you do notice her, even though her role is really small.
But it's key to the story.
Yeah, it's pivotal.
Yeah. Next one.
We got the man again, another really great one, Steve Buscemi. Okay, and literally the number of things that Steve Buscemi has been in. If you know who he is, if you don't know who he is, I guarantee you, if you saw his face, you'd be like, "Oh, that guy," because it's hard not to see something that has Steve Buscemi in it. Correct. But I'm going to try to go through and just pick some specific things.
Sure.
Steve Buscemi is an American actor. He's known for his work as an acclaimed character actor. His early credits consist of major roles in independent film productions such as the age drama Parting Glances. He was also in Mystery Train, In the Soup, and his breakout role as Mr. Pink in Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, which he was great in. I don't tip. Buscemi has appeared in independent and mainstream films, including Pulp Fiction, Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
He had a fantastic role in Con Air, where he pretty much steals that movie. It's so small, but he's so good in it.
Yeah.
We got 28 Days, Domestic Disturbance, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, The Dead Don't Die. Buscemi's often starred in Coen Brothers movies such as Miller's Crossing, Fargo. He got thrown into the wood chipper in Fargo, which was awesome.
Yeah.
The Big Lebowski. And he's also appeared in supporting or cameo roles in many films with Adam Sandler, including Airheads, Billy Madison, The Wedding Singer, Mr. Deeds, and Hubie Halloween.
Just to name a few, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's hard because he's so good in like it. It's hard to find a bad Steve Buscemi performance. He might have been in a shitty movie, but his performance in it is usually like, you're like, dude, he's on screen. You can't take your eyes off him.
Yeah. I always equate to that. Like I said, too, another one that's not a stranger to the podcast, too, because we did Ben and I discussed him during Con Air when we covered that here. So check that one out. We have fun. We talk about Steve Buscemi a little bit more and what he's also done in life, because he did a lot and we mentioned it in there. So I say reference that, go back to that particular podcast and listen to it. It's pretty fun. Next up, I'm probably going to butcher his name. And it's Coraface, but is it Jorge or Jorge? I don't know how to say it. It comes out as like George's, but if
that's
you
the
have
way it's spelled,
correction,
yes.
yeah. So he plays Cuervo Jones. Coraface is the son of the Greek symphonic and opera conductor and violinist Dimitri Courafas, Cephalonian descendant of the Neapolitan Carafa family. His multicultural background enables him to work in French, Greek, English, Spanish, German, and Italian, in roles ranging from dramatic leads to eccentric characterizations. He's most popular in France, Greece, and Spain. By virtue of box office hits, Best Actors Awards, and television celebrity he enjoys in these countries. I looked up a lot of his stuff. You may not know. I did not know any of them because I only remember him from this particular film.
Yeah.
They're all foreign films. So if you're interested in seeing more of him, I highly recommend that you go look at his Wikipedia or his IMDb. Just search for the films and you'll be able to find them. I'm sure you could find them somewhere online to stream.
And in this role, he's believable as, Cuervo Jones. I don't think I've ever seen anything else with him in it.
No.
All right. You know what? You gave me like everybody who is like fantastic in this list. I'm going to tell you that.
I try to do every other one, and whoever comes on, I like to have them spotlighted on the podcast, not me.
Nice.
So you get the good ones on occasion, I guess.
So another great actor, Stacy Keach as Commander Malloy. He's an American actor, active in theater, film, television shows since the 1960s. In film, he garnered critical acclaim for his portrayal of a washed-up boxer in the John Huston film Fat City in 1972, and appeared as Sergeant Stadenko in Cheech and Chong's films Up in Smoke and Nice Dreams. So he played that part again. His other notable film credits include Brewster McCloud, Doc, The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean, Luther, Slave of the Cannibal God, The Ninth Configuration, The Long Riders, American History X, The Bourne Legacy, and Nebraska. Keach is known to television audience for his portrayal of the private detective Mike Hammer on the TV series for Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer, which ran from 1984 to 1987, which I used to watch religiously.
Same here.
For which he was nominated for a Golden Globe. And if you like CNBC, he is the narrator on American Greed.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's known for like at narration or he talks over some stuff. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, he's like another, like I always say, legacy actor.
Oh yeah.
So next up would be Michelle Forbes, who plays Bryson. She's an American actress who has appeared on television and independent films. She's a Saturn Award winner with 3 nominations. Forbes first garnered attention for her dual role in the daytime soap opera Guiding Light, for which she received Daytime Emmy Award. She is known for recurring appearances on genre and drama shows, including Ensign Ro Laren in Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Picard. Yeah, that's how I remember her.
Right.
And her regular role as medical examiner Juliana Cox on the homicide Life on the Street during the 90s.
Yeah.
She played recurring roles throughout the 2000 Battlestar Galactica, which I'm going to start because I got a good deal on it on iTunes. The new Battlestar Galactica, everybody that came out in the 2000s.
Right.
24, the show 24, if you all remember that. That was Kiefer Sutherland. In Treatment, Durham County, Prison Break, another good series. And her series regular role as Marianne Foster on True Blood, which I also do remember too. Actually, the Truest Blood podcast is back, and they're covering, I believe, season 3 now. So Deborah Ann Wall, who has just finished her filming for Daredevil Reborn.
Daredevil, yeah.
Yeah, so she's back to it. So they're covering an episode per week. So you can get that on Max if you want, or you could go to your certain podcast players of choice. Just a cheap plug for her and them because I'm a fan. So Forbes has appeared in significant roles in films such as this one, California, Swimming with Sharks, and Columbus. So if you see her face, you probably recognize her just from those roles.
You haven't watched Battlestar Galactica at all?
I watched it when it came out.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm gonna do my rewatch after I got it for like, what was it, $25 on iTunes.
So really interesting in California. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. That's actually with Brad Pitt.
Yep.
Yeah. So she's actually had quite a career.
Yeah.
Again, giving me all the good ones. Icon, a classic, Pam Grier as Herschel Promise. Also, Carjack Malone. So, is an American actress and singer described by many as cinema's first female action star. She achieved fame for her starring roles in a string of 1970s action, blaxploitation, and women in prison films for American International Pictures, AIP, thank you, and New World Pictures. Grier came to prominence with her titular roles in the films Coffee and Foxy Brown. Her other major films during this period included The Big Dollhouse, Women in Cages, The Big Bird Cage, Black Mama, White Mama, Scream, Blackula, Scream, The Arena, Sheba Baby, Bucktown, and Friday Foster. She portrayed the title character in Tarantino's crime film Jackie Brown nearly 3 decades after her first starring role. Grier also appeared in Mars Attacks, Jawbreaker, Holy Smoke, Bones, Just Right, Larry Crown, and Palms. Nice.
And it's funny too, because in the mid 90s, that was her kind of comeback.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I believe it was through Reservoir Dogs that everybody started going, well, we should hire her back.
Yeah.
And because they had that whole Jackie Brown conversation in the car, if you all don't remember. So I suggest go watch it. Yeah, it's another classic film in my opinion. But they have this whole thing, and I think Quentin Tarantino brought her name back to life for people because she wasn't filming too much or doing film at all, really. And it wasn't until Tim Burton put her in Mars Attacks, and then shortly after that she got Jackie Brown because Tarantino was like, "Oh, you're working again," and then then it just like movie after movie after that where she pops in and you go, "Wow!" And then of course this one, which was very, very different for her, in my opinion. Yeah. I thought this, but I enjoyed the character too, and we're gonna get into the gimmick of it later.
Yeah.
Next up, well, this one's a classic, and they're a legacy actor from a legacy family. So Peter Fonda, who plays Pipeline, the surfer that Snake encounters, he was an American actor, so he's no longer with us. He was the son of Henry Fonda. I can't speak. Younger brother of Jane Fonda, who we all know,
right,
and is the father, which I didn't know, of Bridget Fonda.
Oh, you didn't know? Okay.
I did not know that, oddly enough. Movies we may know him from mostly would be Easy Rider from 1969, Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry in 1974, Uli's Gold in 1997. Movies that I like and a lot of people hate as a Marvel film, but I like it for the fact that it was the first rendition of it, and we're going to get a different one coming soon.
Right.
Ghost Rider in 2007.
Yep.
And another star-studded cast movie, and I think my father would probably be hitting me from the heavens, and if you were here, he'd smack me physically. 310 to Yuma. I think it was a remake that they did in 2007.
Yes. Yeah, that was a remake because there's an older version of that.
Yeah, so just to name a few. So Peter passed away at the age of 79 in 2019, and he died from respiratory failure caused by lung cancer.
In keeping with the classics here, another actor, Cliff Robertson, who played the president.
Mm-hmm.
He was an American actor who portrayed whose career in film and television spanned over 6 decades. Robertson portrayed a young John F. Kennedy in the 1963 film PT 109 and won the 1968 Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in the film Charlie, 3 Days of the Condor, Sunday in New York, Gidget, The Devil's Brigade. He was in Spider-Man in 2002. Unfortunately, he passed away at the age of 88 in 2011 due to natural causes. And I think he did a really good job playing the president here.
Yes.
Especially for like being like a really super religious. And I understand that like they were looking at different personalities of religious people to base him on. And we'll get into that as well.
Yeah. And he did a great job on this. He also was our first Uncle Ben in the MCU.
Yes, in Spider-Man,
Well, first real Uncle Ben, I should say, on film. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that'll be something that we'll talk about later on Panels to Pixels for another episode. Next up, Valeria Golino, who plays Taslima. Taslima, however you want to call her.
Yeah.
So she's an an Italian actress and film director. I was going to say American, but you can't, if she spoke, you'd be like, you're an idiot. She's got that heavy accent. She's best known to English language audiences for her roles in Rain Man, 1988, Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. So it's a classic film. Big Top Pee-wee in 1988, which I remember from as well. And along with both of the Hot Shot films, one Hot Shots in 1991 and Hot Shots Part 2 in 1993. That had Charlie Sheen in it and a whole cast of other comedic actors.
For her, it's kind of funny because there was a point at that time when she was doing those movies where it seemed like she was becoming a really popular and like somebody who was being used in movies a lot. Yes. And then at some point it just like disappeared. Yeah,
it is true. Yeah, she just disappeared. But she probably, from what I looked at, she went to do more in Europe and more in Italy and stuff like that. So a lot of people change, if they're a European actor, model, what have you, and they find some sort of acclaim in there, and Hollywood's not calling anymore. They're going to go back where their roots are. So more power to her. Next up would be honorable mentions and voiceovers. So there are a lot more casts of people, so I don't want to go individually and have them described and things of that nature. So because we'd be here for another hour.
Yeah.
And I want to just have this introduction to certain people for like 15, maybe 20 minutes. So with that, we'll move right into it. We get Jamie Lee Curtis back as the narrator at the beginning of the film. So she did this for Escape from New York, and she does it yet again and delivers it. But her voice sounds, in this case, because it seems like a heavier tone in her voice when you listen to this in comparison to Escape from New York. So I really like that. And I love that because Deborah Hill and John Carpenter brought her back, which I like. And I love that. Next up,
we got Bruce Campbell, who makes an appearance as the Surgeon General of LA. If you are into genre films again, you know the name of Bruce Campbell, okay? and same as Steve Buscemi. If you think you don't know who he is, you see a picture of him, you'll be like, oh, that guy. But he's also been exactly, yeah. He's not Robert Zedar. We know him from the Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, and from shows like Briscoe County Jr., which I thought was a great show and never should have gotten canceled. But anyway, and Xena and Hercules. And Xena, it's and Hercules is interesting because he's basically playing Robin Hood.
Yeah, but he's stealing for himself now.
Most likely. But still.
Yeah.
Like if you don't get the joke, it's like he's there all dressed in green and everything like that. And
he's got the cool way mustache that he's doing with the sour patch on, and his hair's coiffed and everything. He actually, when I met him and I talked to him about that, I actually had him sign an autograph for his picture as that character at a Xena convention, and he doesn't have any of that stuff anymore. Like if you go to a convention, you meet him, he's got more just Ash versus Evil Dead, him and Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 and all that stuff in Army of Darkness. But he, I forget the name of the character in Xena.
Oh shoot.
I can't remember it, but he's a nice guy to chat with, easy, down to earth, and he's funny as all hell. You're trying to remember.
I don't know why, but I want to say Autolycus or something like that, but
no, it's not Autolycus. I thought that too, but
damn it.
I'm sure you listeners would be like, you're screaming it as you're listening to this in your car,
exactly.
saying what idiots you are, but always send it in feedback as a joke and say, hey, you screwed it up. All right. Next up, Robert Carradine is in this film. So he plays the character, and it's a funny character because it's kind of like a last minute 1-2 skidoo character. He plays the skinhead.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
When you put this in here, I actually looked at it and I was like, God damn, wait a minute. Where did I see fucking Robert Carradine in this movie? And now I realize who he was. He's the dude who says, look at my face when you're the skinhead dude.
You shit heel.
Yeah. I could, because you really could, like, it just clicked in my head. I was like, oh, that is him. All right, cool.
Yeah. He comes from a legacy family too of the Carradines. Yes. We all know him mostly from Revenge of the Nerds. That dude with the glasses and the nose. So,
that didn't narrow that down for anybody. The one with the black hair.
Yeah. Well, everybody gets him confused with Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards. Yeah. Peter Jason makes another return in a John Carpenter film. A regular of the Carpenter films returns. He's Peter Jason. Pretty much shows up whenever he can. Let's just do it that way. Go look at any John Carpenter movie. You'll probably see his name in there.
I was also looking for the Asian actor. We talked about him. I accidentally left him out. I just remembered it, and I was looking on IMDb, and they don't even list him in the movie.
No, I don't think he even had. I don't think
he didn't even have speaking lines. He was just a background character. But you'll remember him from like Big Trouble in Little China. And
you're talking about damn it, I just had and I lost it.
That's okay.
The martial artist. I know who you're talking about.
I know. But he was also in Die Hard 2 as well. Not Die Hard 2, but as well, everybody. He was the one that steals the candy bar, if you remember.
That's Al Leong. Al Leong, but I was thinking, and it just hit me, Jeff Amata.
Yes, Jeff Amata is another one. And I think he was in Big Trouble as well.
Yes, he was, yeah.
Okay.
He's in the airport with the butterfly knife. Like at the very beginning.
Yes.
Because that's what Jeff Amata is famous for, is using a butterfly knife.
Yep. Next up, of all things I put in here, but I had to look. It showed up on IMDb, so I said, let me throw it in because it's really odd. A porn star was in this. And apparently her name is Aiden Starr, and she played the Surgeon General's nurse. So she's following around. So to me, it looks like she didn't have any plastic surgery, but they just dolled up her face. But I was like, okay, I did not know that. But that's like also looking at Piranha Double D, because they had porn stars in that particular movie. But then again, that movie, if you watch that, it is a horror movie, but it's kind of tongue-in-cheek campy too.
Oh, for sure.
But in that particular movie, you had boobs and all naked ladies and stuff like that. So they had to hire actresses that could just be like, yeah, I'll get naked. But in this case, it just threw me for a loop for a John Carpenter film to have a porn star in it. I don't know.
I feel like we probably have I know, a matter of fact, I know for a fact there's a lot more movies where porn stars have shown up in the backgrounds.
Yeah.
Just because they want to try to be breaking into regular roles as much as they possibly can.
Yeah.
So,
no more power to them. They're regular. They're
absolutely.
people just like us. They need a job.
Exactly.
Next one.
Leland Orser. And he's a great character actor. He plays Test Tube. For anybody who might not remember who he is, the movie that he is really well known for, he's in a lot of things. He's literally like ER, things like that. But Seven is the role that a lot of people will remember him from, because he is the lust victim. Yes. And I say victim because he's forced to put on that
knife,
crazy apparatus and have sex with the girl. And it's got a big blade on it. Yeah, it's well, his performance, the way that he does it, where like he's like, he made me do it, and you're like, man, he's selling it like crazy.
He plays that same character similar to that in Alien Resurrection.
Yes,
when he's one of the guys that they find, but he's got the alien inside him, but he does the wildest thing, and he knows he only has so much time until it's going to come out of his chest, and then he does the one thing that is so crazy in that film, which is he hugs somebody that's like evil, and it just goes right through the other person. So the craziness and how like his screaming and being in fear is like a dead giveaway of like the characters that he plays at times. Other than this one, where he was very more logical and he was like scientific, like he was like the geek guy, the man in a chair.
He's trying to tell Cuervo, like, here's how you use this thing, and he actually goes a little bit too far, because Cuervo's like, look, I'll kill you.
Yeah. Next up and lastly would be Breckin Meyer, and he plays a surfer, along with Kurt Russell and Peter Fonda. So he's there with Pipeline and everything. So it was during that whole surfing scene when everybody's get together. But it must have just been a walk-on cameo role that he got paid for. So we know him from the comedy films like Road Trip. And if you'll remember, I like it. It's like, it's just basically a Mad, Mad World done in the 2000s called Rat Race. And I love
that it's a Mad, Mad World.
I love the original film.
Mad World.
I left a bunch of mads out. But yeah, I used to love that as a kid because it used to play on TV, and my parents would allow me to watch that because it's a 60s film.
It's hilarious. It's really elaborate. It's over the top.
Yeah.
And the number of celebrities in it is
for that time. Yeah.
For that time. Yeah. Well, for any time, you know what I mean? Like if you like classics, you're going to know a lot of the people in this movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I highly recommend it.
For Breckin Meyer. Breckin Meyer is frequently a contributor to Robot Chicken. I think he had a little bit to do with creating Robot Chicken.
Yes. With Seth Green. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does a lot of voices. So he's more of the common voice actor on that. And I think he does the stories as well. So he's a regular on that. So that's something you'll hear his voice mostly, but it's pretty funny. Sure. And it shows his comedic chops as well. All right. Well, we've got through everybody.
That wasn't everybody, but okay.
Everybody I could pick out.
Everybody with that was pretty much had something to do with the story.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where we get into like general discussion, our overall thoughts of the movie, key scenes, what we liked. We might throw in some quotes here and there if we like, because we like to do this off the cuff now, and we don't have to do it in stages. So we like to have fun. So it's how we've been formatting lately with panels to pixels. Ben has been doing that with Wilhelm. A few other of my friends are doing pretty much the same. Because a lot of that whole top 5 format is always, let's just have fun. Yeah. Open discussion. We're friends. And this is how we talk in real life, everybody. We're on a Zoom call between Frank, Adam, Rob, and I.
Yeah.
So let's go into it. Let's go into the like what your thoughts were. You said you had a lot of things to bring up. What did you want to bring up about key parts? You were talking about a couple of characters.
To start off, like for this movie,
Mhm.
like I said, story beats. There's some story beats that are very similar to Escape from New York.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I mean, you get a lot of people who see Escape from LA and they're like, it's the same freaking thing
I know.
as Escape from New York. And yeah, there are definitely parts of the story that are exactly the same. They swap things out. Like instead of the glider, it's a submarine. So, there's definitely things that are the same. However, what I always felt like, and even when I first saw it, this was what I thought. I felt like, and I could be wrong, John Carpenter could be sitting there going like, no, you completely missed the point of this. But I felt like he was doing it to basically parody sequels in general. You know what I mean? Because that's what ends up happening. A lot of times sequels are the same or covering like the same things. Like, Die Hard and Die Hard 2, they just swap little different things around. Like, it's Christmas still. One's happening in a building, one's happening in an airport. But that's what I was looking at here. And I was saying to myself, he's just basically, he's doing some similar pieces, but it's still a self-contained story with Snake Plissken, which is what we're coming for. We're coming there to see Snake Plissken. And a lot of the things that he does in this are really good as far as like the scenes. They change some things up. Granted, again, he gets dosed without him realizing it. Obviously, this time he's looking for it, but they managed to get him dosed without him realizing it by scratching him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's different things
But
that
you
they
see
do
the
that are
setup
the same.
coming too when she comes by
Exactly.
and her nail graces his hand, and
She looks at him like so strangely. It's like, okay.
In this case, it's a toxin instead of like
Right.
explosives in his arteries
Yeah.
that they kind of do, and they mislead him. He knows the deal when he gets in there. All right, what's the deal?
Right, exactly. He's looking at it like
it's like I've been here before.
Even with that, they still managed to do some things that are new with him by like using the holograms when he because if you got Snake Plissken in a corner, he's gonna do some things to try to get at you.
Yeah,
and they had already taken that into consideration. They're like, okay, well, hey, you're predictable. We got we're holograms. And then they get him again later because he tries to go ahead and he goes to go jump into the submarine, and he's like, "Who's going to give me my antidote for the neurotoxin?" And they're like, "Oh, we'll have a medical team, but it's neither of you. Good." And he just starts shooting, and they're like, "Ha ha ha! We thought of that too." The first clip is full of blanks.
It's so funny that the first it's full of blanks. But
right.
He's still got a full loaded clip that he can easily just go grab and just shoot again anyway if he was really pissed off.
But that's why he went ahead and he like Stacy Keach just comes over and right away like just drops the that heavy cover on his head. He's like, no, you're not going to get a second chance at this. But there are really great things about this one. Again, lots of things that are similar, but there are things that make it its own.
One of which we could say is like that scene in Escape from New York. It's like the end battle scene or Snake fighting for his life. In this case, instead of Ox Baker, the wrestler in the ring, it's him having to play basketball and get shots in. And I can't give you the dialogue right now off the top of my head of what Cuervo tells him. It's none of that 3-point shit, blah, 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 blah. You shoot, but he has to make every shot within a certain amount of time. Otherwise he gets shot or executed.
Yeah. He's got to make 2 points for every shot. He has to get up to 10 points
within
so he's got to make 5
within
and then the shot clock
30-second
is 10 seconds for basketball. So that's basically what he's doing. He's basically just giving him 10 seconds each time.
Yeah, and then he does the one thing at the end, which I do enjoy. It's kind of campy and cheesy. It's reflective of the first film, but he does the one throw, and it gets in right at the time that he needs it. And they're like, and then he turns everybody that's outside, watching this, who want him dead, all loving him, and they're all chanting "Snake, Snake, Snake."
Same as in Escaping New York. Once he kills Oxbaker, everybody's like, "Snake, Snake, Snake." Yeah, so that's again, like, these are things that people look at this and they go, "Oh, again, it's the same as Escape." No, man, it is, but I feel like that's what Carpenter's going for.
Yes,
he's like, I'm going to make a sequel, and I'm going to do things in it that are the same, but I'm also, but that's part of the commentary on. We go to these movies, we go to see these sequels, and a lot of times it's the same thing, but we sit there and we go, as long as the story is exciting enough or it has enough bells and whistles to make you pay attention to it, you walk out and you go, wow, that was fantastic.
And it's all in pure fun. And originally, when this came out, Carpenter wanted to do another sequel. Now, mind you, this is the only sequel he's done to any of his films.
Yeah.
I think he wrote Halloween 2, and that was it.
Yes.
He gets production or executive producing on anything Halloween that came out after that through the contract that he had with Avi Arad, and that's it. And then he did the music for Halloween 2 as well. He also
helped out a little bit with Halloween 3 as far as the story.
Seasons of the Witch.
But that's mainly because at that time his idea for that was to do Halloween themed movies, not to continue the story of Michael Myers.
This was his original intention, because he didn't want to do a direct sequel. That's why he backed out of it. And then they had somebody else do it. And him and Deborah Hill, I think, were responsible for some of the script writing on it. And that's about it. And then they got production. But this is the only one of his films that he has done a sequel for directly. And he was looking to do after this, because you had Escape from New York, Escape from LA. So you had two major cities. Well, at the end of this movie, it ends with an EMP that destroys the world, as we all know. And it was Escape from Earth that was set up for later on. Right. And it was in developmental hell. And I was looking forward for it so long. And in the early, not even around 2010, I was looking online, trying to figure it out, hearing interviews. He's mentioning it, that he's interested, and he's got a couple of scripts written. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to get Escape from Earth finally after all these years. And it got dropped after he had to sue, and because of a movie called Lockout that came out by Luc Besson. And it was literally very much similar to what he had written on for Escape from Earth. And it was in developmental hell. And then they wound up suing Besson and everybody. So I forgot what they won. Besson must pay $500,000. Or 450,000 euros, because the way they say it is Lockout massively borrowed key elements from Escape from New York. So that's
even if you didn't know and you saw that movie, in the back of your head, you're going, man, that was a lot like freaking Snake Plissken. Like the character, the way that he played it was kind of a lot like Snake Plissken, and very Escape from New York vibes.
It did. And honestly, I saw the film, did not realize it, but I did like the actor in it. He did the Time Machine.
Guy Pearce.
I really, we remember him from Prometheus and
LA Confidential.
Of course, I mentioned it already, the Time Machine, which is another movie I enjoy. I just like H.G. Wells films too. Actually, there's Guillermo del Toro is actually doing. Is it Guillermo del Toro doing Frankenstein? Somebody's doing a rendition of Frankenstein, so that's coming out.
I'm there.
But, right. But he was originally meant to do a trilogy for Escape, and it just did not happen. Probably because this didn't make money, and with a lot of films, they just don't make money.
Yeah.
And with his films, they are cult statuses at certain points, and people just watch them. You have to watch them back to back. So there are certain films that he has done that a lot of people are just like, okay. But the one
It's just
thing,
one of those things.
yeah, just to go back in time, around the time when this movie did come out, to talk about other films just shortly. At this time, or at the week of August 9th, 1996, what movies were out in the theater? Well, we have Jack with Robin Williams in it. It was a Walt Disney film. A Time to Kill.
Was it Hook?
Jack. It was a hit. Yeah. The name was just Jack. I forget what the movie was about completely.
I think that was the one where
was he
he's like an old, he's a kid, but he's like, he looks like a grown man or something like that. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
A Time to Kill was around at that point. Independence Day.
There you go.
Yeah, that was the big blockbuster that killed everybody that year. I remember that being in multiple theaters throughout the whole summer.
And I went to see that movie a few times.
Same here. And then Phenomenon with John Travolta.
Yeah, John Travolta. Yeah.
Yeah. So Courage Under Fire, The Nutty Professor, Kingpin
with
yeah. Twister. These were all out around that same time. So they're probably rollovers from the previous, because back then movies stayed in the theaters in a course of maybe 2 or 3 months. So a lot of these were out beforehand or after, like, like The Frighteners.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox. The Rock.
It was facing a lot of really good summer movies at that point. So people were probably like, I'm going to pick and choose which one I want to go see. So it didn't do as well in the box office, but honestly, the top contenders were, obviously, we all know it, Nutty Professor, Twister, and Independence Day. So those were the top tier, what they made that week as far as total gross. Whereas with, unfortunately, Mr. Carpenter's film, it didn't do well. But cool things about the film that I enjoy, just add a little bit of notes, because with that, along with the movies, I think this was one of the first of few films that Carpenter did where the soundtrack was more for the time of popularity of music. Popular music in this case, since John Carpenter is one of those who like rock and metal and stuff like that. And you would not believe it, because you look at him, he looked like a hippie more than anything. But he always had the long hair and had the beard and everything. He thought, okay, he's more of like a hippie, but no, he likes his metal too. So and this, you had like bands like Tool, and they wrote a song specifically for it. You had Gravity Kills, a whole bunch. The one thing I really did like about it during the surf scene, he actually got a legendary surf guitarist who I love and got to see live before he passed away, which was Dick Dale. So that scene has like a song called Scout, which is Dick Dale. So that surf guitar scene had an actual true surf. You have a song by White Zombie. So, like I said, and you have Ministry in there. So the soundtrack is really, really good. And to show for its time too, Tori Amos was popular in the 90s. Yeah. And she does Professional Widow in that. So, and Sugar Ray is in there as well. So you do get a lot of what was currently popular, but also more of the heaviness. And then those key songs that go or work with the scene itself, like I said, with the Dick Dale song. So he does this later on with certain movies like Ghosts of Mars, which Anthrax actually had they actually lent it to, not just like not just putting their popular music into it, but they were there for the soundtrack, giving heaviness to what John Carpenter was doing. So he was working alongside with them in the studio. So if you get the DVDs and on DVD Extra, you could see him in the studio with them. And that's really cool.
Which Ghosts of Mars is another film that a lot of people don't like, but I actually do. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that film too. And some of these movies that just do come and go.
Yeah.
And then you finally get to them. I didn't get to see that in the theater, unfortunately, but that you had Ice Cube in it, and you had what's her name from
Marilyn Manson,
Species.
Oh, damn it.
Natasha Henstridge.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. She became mostly known in the 90s also, because of Species.
In that one, though, and he's a little bit easy to spot, Robert Carradine's also in that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's the train. He's the train driver, and Peter Jason is the senior driver. Like he's the assistant, and Peter Jason is the head. And I think he actually ends up getting one of the saw blades to the head, whereas it's just like the whole like top of his head comes off or something like that. But yeah.
And then obviously a few years earlier, the movie Vampires, if you remember that movie too.
Yeah,
I saw that in the theater too as well. I remember that. I think I was unemployed at that time, so in between going to job interviews, I would go see movies. So that came out around that time.
Why not, right?
So yeah, that movie had James Woods in it, and you had like who else? The Baldwin brother was in it too.
Yes, it's Alec. No, not Alec. Adam.
Daniel. Yeah, Daniel Baldwin, and that movie as well. Just like the same, it didn't make as well, but oddly enough,
that's a great movie.
Yeah, and it's based off a book too, by the way.
Right.
So
if you like a kick-ass vampire movie where they're not sparkling and golden in the sun, or
with hunters,
that is the movie to watch.
And they have like really cool modern style weapons to drag these things out, and creativity, and somebody's hired by the Catholic Church to hunt down these vampires, and they're paid for it. But all right, just to give you an idea of the music stuff that came in with this, where it started off, where he started putting in more modern music into his films, and it became more of a consistent thing over the years, and I thought it was pretty cool. I think he started doing that with Body Bags as well. That came out in '93, but I think in the Masters of Horror that was on HBO, he continued that too as well, because they did shorts. It was a series where they each certain.
It's a great series.
Yeah, the certain horror film or suspense thriller. It depended. I think Wes Craven did one. He did one, and they had a variety.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. The one that I enjoyed was Cigarette Burns, if I recall correctly, but that had Norman Reedus in it, and it had to do with film, and then it was like a missing print, which was a precursor to a movie I just watched, where it was a movie that made everybody go mad, and then this is supposed to be about somebody getting that, just to go into another movie and similar.
Yeah.
But to continue on, favorite moments in this particular film, Escape from LA. So I really enjoyed the scene with Surgeon General, getting that with Bruce Campbell, and the makeup on him, and his chin not as pronounced, his cheeks were more pronounced, and I just love it. And the like we all talked about it, the funniness and the tongue-in-cheek nature in it. It's like he goes to Valeria Galina.
They're real.
He goes, my God, they're real, when he touches her breasts. And they'd go to the typical thing of with Snake, though, and he goes, what a lovely, beautiful eye. Yeah, it's a shame there's only one. And they're like literally taking the parts from people because literally they're just like surgical junkies. They just want to have plastic surgery,
and that's
all
how
the
they're getting
time.
their extra pieces.
Yeah, that's how they get their extra pieces, which is funny too, because there's I don't know if it was Johnny Mnemonic that they had something similar to that or whatever, but there was something storyline similar to that in some way where they were replacing body parts.
It's been a while since I've seen Johnny Mnemonic. But yeah, there was something very similar to that. So my favorite scene has always been and always will be. I mean, there's lots of really good scenes in this, but I feel like the ending is the absolute best.
The switcheroo.
It's so Snake Plissken, first of all, in that it's very similar to what happens. And again, that's me just going with the story beats again. It's similar to what happens in Escape from New York, where the cassettes get switched at the end of Escape from New York, and they end up playing the jazz music instead of the actual speech that they needed to stop the war with China or whatever it was that they were trying to stop.
Yeah.
But in this one, they take it even further, because not only does he switch it, they in the beginning of the movie when they first start giving him his kit, and like they start going over like all of the things that he's going to use, which he pretty much uses everything in this movie. They actually give him a holographic projector. It's something that you can only use once, and it like you can be like up to 2.5 miles away or something like that. And
no, it was a half mile away.
Half mile? Okay. Yeah. So he uses that at the end of the movie. Again, we said this is spoilers. He uses that at the end of the movie to trick the president into thinking, first of all, he tricks him by giving Utopia what he pretends is the real remote control to control the sword of Damocles.
Yes.
And Peter and Stacy Keach is wise to him. He's like, wait, hold on. Go check her, because he slipped it into her pocket, and he
knew of what happened previous.
Yeah, exactly. Because what happened previously, he goes ahead and he checks her. He finds another remote control. He looks at it, and earlier in the film, Map to the Stars Eddie has had the great idea to go ahead and put a piece of nail polish on the disc so that it looks exactly like the other operating system.
Yep.
And he's like, if we might even be able to pull a Texas switcheroo when he says it in the film. And then later on, it pays off because they take the one from Utopia, thinking that that's the right one. They go ahead and they put in the codes like they're supposed to. And the president thinks he's like, I've won. And he's making a threat to all of the countries that are basically attacking America right now. He's like, if you don't turn around, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take away all your power in every one of your countries, blah, blah, blah. And he thinks he's won. He hits the button and nothing happens. And then he looks over at Snake, and Snake is like, yeah, I'm not surprised. He knew he planned that whole thing out. But then they go ahead and they try to get the original one from him, and they realize, holy crap, he's got us now. He's a hologram. And since he's safe far away, he basically is like, I could go ahead and I could take all the power away from you and they win. I take all the power away from them, you win. But if I go ahead and I take the power away from everybody, back to the Ice Age, back to the Stone Age for us.
Yeah.
You know? And they try to convince him, don't do that. And he basically, in true Snake fashion, which is like, I don't know if I could have done this, but he like literally is like, I told you guys, you better hope I don't come back. And then he does it. He just destroys everything. He takes out everything, every electronic device on Earth.
Yeah. With the code 666, which is you.
Yeah, with the world code 666. So that's why I think as a fan of Snake Plissken and the fact that it's such a Snake Plissken move to just be like, yeah, screw everybody.
It was just like the Escape from New York. Similar tropes and similar like story plot twist with the tape. And instead of the tape that to give peace, he gives Cabby's tape of his music. And then in this case, Map of the Star Eddie, I don't know if I think that I don't think we had a character like Frank Doubleday who played Romero in Escape from New York. Like that character was like with the big top hair with
really
the crazy eyes.
Maybe like that.
Like we never had anything like that, but I think Map of the Stars Eddie was a lot more like Cabby. So I think just to show reflection in comparison to that. So I because we have like and you know Stacy Keach's character is more like Lee Van Cleef's Hulk,
right?
In the first film too. So
he is, but he clearly like he comes across as I've got you all figured out. You know what I mean? He doesn't
because
respect
of Hulk before. He probably had.
He doesn't
documents.
respect Snake Plissken like Hulk did. Hulk was clearly like, you know, even when he's talking to Snake in the first movie, you get the idea that Hulk respects Snake Plissken.
Yeah.
In this one, it's really clear Stacy Keach doesn't really think he's all that. Even when they're talking about him, like, oh, that's where the first I thought he'd be taller comes in because he's talking to like Brazen, and he's like, oh yeah, that's Snake Plissken, and he's explaining the whole history and stuff.
Yeah,
he saved another president.
They actually do mention that, but I think Keach's representation, he does show a little bit of respect because he knew later on when they didn't hear from Snake, he goes, it's not like him, blah blah blah. We know him, and it showed a little bit of respect. And then when he sees him in TV on the like,
because the president's like ready to go, like, yo, just let's just hope. I love also that he's like under the table when the earthquake happens. Yeah. And he's like, maybe that's the answer. Maybe a quake will take them all away from us.
In this case, in this time, this president is a real piece of work. He's whereas the president that had to be saved before, you were concerned for them, and then he loses his mind. It's like,
right.
Hey, number one.
You are the Duke.
And the Duke in this case would be Cuervo. And the idea of Maggie would be Valeria Galina Talisa. I forgot her name.
Talisma.
Tassima. She would be that. She would be playing Maggie. Brain would, I don't know. Brain would be.
Brain is technically Carjack Malone, who we didn't really get into that, but
yeah, we can get into it now because it's the same conversation. It's like he talks about Cleveland, two-timing him in Cleveland, along with Texas Mike O'Shea. Fresno Bob, remember Bob? Brain?
Yeah. And that's basically because that's it's the way that they help, because Brain helps him get across the bridge, and she gets him over to where the Happy Kingdom is, or whatever they're
Disneyland. Basically,
the way they're calling Anna, it's basically Disneyland. Yeah,
it's called the Happy Kingdom amusement park.
Kingdom. Yeah.
So, and it's like the conversation between Map of the Star Eddie and somebody else. I think it might have been Snake, and he goes, "Yeah, it lasted so long, and then that whole thing in France kind of destroyed it because at the time Disney had opened up France and they were losing money at one point."
Right.
But it was kind of, which is so funny too, because if you think about it, Disney, Kurt Russell, he was a Disney boy at one point too.
Yes. Yeah.
But that scene was actually filmed where they filmed that whole amusement park. That was part of Magic Mountain in California. So, but yeah, I love how they had that conversation. Him and what did he call himself?
I think it's Snake.
No, Carjack Malone.
Oh, Carjack.
Yeah.
Well, Hershey,
Carjack Malone, same person.
But hey, I recognize that voice. Yeah. Carjack Malone.
And I love how it goes for the crotch. Always packing a piece.
Always packing a gun.
Down there. You're like, where's this going? I thought you were seeing if he was checking to see if he was still a real dude.
Right.
But it was pretty cool. But it was like the same thing, you know. It's like Texas Mike O'Shea, Fresno Bob. So you hear what they did to Bob?
Just big bad partners. They keep leaving him in the lurch.
He always gets two-timed. But yeah, I did enjoy that. The glider scene was pretty funny on how it was. Just a lot like with the surfing scene. A lot of people go, "Oh my god, that's cheesy, how campy," but it's fun and nonetheless, I liked it, especially when you see him surfing down, like, what was it? I forgot what road. It was in California.
I actually think it was the LA basin, that area that they show in movies a lot, like Blood In, Blood Out and stuff like that, where that's like supposed to be like some kind of sewer drain. It goes all the way down to the ocean.
Yeah, I always thought it was like, okay, this is Hollywood Boulevard or something. But I could be wrong.
I have to check again now.
I have to check again. You listeners could do that if you want. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
I didn't go into. I haven't even looked at what the unknown or interesting facts, which we haven't gotten into yet.
We'll probably we might even have it there. So.
Yeah. So, but if you have a clue and we didn't mention it, let us know. I also like how Cuervo is dressed. Did you look at his uniform and what was on there?
Yeah.
It has baby teeth with baby pins as almost like they're medals on a because that I was like, what? I looked at it, I was like, I just realized it today.
I don't think I caught it the first time I saw it, but on rewatches, I was like, wait a minute, those are teeth.
Yeah. To show how crazy he is, you know, very much like in the beginning with all the craziness already, where people are using the soldier that was supposedly alive and his comm tracker is there, and they're using him as like a dartboard with blades.
And that's where they have the really interesting back and forth of, hey, I bet you can't get all three knives in this guy.
I love how the response, though. It's like with Skinhead, and he goes, "Come back here, you shitheel," and then he turns around and just shoots him.
Yeah, just come around and shoot him.
That's the end of Robert Carradine's
and
character.
He's the only one who doesn't realize that that's what's going to happen, because everybody else on the street clears out as soon as he comes out and says that. And they're just gone. They're like, "Oh, time for us to go."
Yeah. There's a lot of cool things that happen within the movie itself too, that we could go on and on and on for days. But yeah, the movie itself has its cool opportunities with certain scenes that you just really take in. And like you said, we got him using the gags that they give him in the very beginning of the movie, whereas in the first film we didn't see everything or get everything. He used the nerve toxin the little dart, the blow dart from his mouth to Surgeon General. He has the watch that he has very similar to like what he had in New York.
Countdown,
the countdown. We get the ploy with the same thing. Instead of like explosives in his neck, he's got the toxin, which winds up becoming just a heavy case of the flu.
Yeah, it's really good. The when Hershey says, "Oh yeah, and Plutoxin 7 will kill you in 24 hours," and he's like, "What?"
And I love how Napa star Eddie, he goes, "Yeah, I know the guy that made that up." I swear, I'm telling the truth. And now, mind you, he's already lied to him a bunch of times. He hits Cuervo's car and shoots him with that like multiple
the fun gun.
So there's like certain turnarounds. I don't think Cabby two-timed Snake though in the first film.
Not like that. So. Well, there was that one point where he took off on him. He's like, "That's the Duke. You don't mess with the Duke," and he takes off on him.
He did take off on him. Yeah, that was about it. But not as bad.
No, not as bad as Baptist Stars.
But yeah, there's I love how like there's some cool scenes too, and one of them which, and I'm gonna say this is a scene because I like it as a quote, but you have to really go back to the scene and remember it, where the guys that he first meets on the streets once he gets off the sub and everything, not the surfer dude,
pipeline.
not Pipeline, but the other guys. And before he gets to Valeria Galena, he meets these guys, and Snake goes, "I'm gonna give you assholes a chance. What do you say we play a little Bangkok rules?" Picks up a tin can, and he goes, "Nobody draws until this hits the ground." Throws it up in the air, and then pulls his revolvers and just kills them all. He goes, "Draw." They're already dead.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, why wouldn't you do that? Why, if you're smart enough, you're facing 4 guys with not only guns but automatic weapons, and you've got revolvers, not the fastest thing to shoot. But also he doesn't really aim. So they mention in the Cuervo Jones actually mentions that, hey, I think that's Snake Plissken. And when the girl asks him who he is, Utopia asks him who he is, he's like, "Oh, he's old school gunfighter." And that's when it makes sense, like, that he would go ahead and use a ploy like that, but also that he would hit them, where he just literally 4 shots. That's it. Bang, bang, bang. And he hits all 4 guys. And they actually made a point of spreading out when they first surrounded him to make sure that if he pulled his gun, he didn't have targets close together. So they were at least thinking in those terms. They were like, we don't want to stand too close to him. But didn't matter, because when he throws the can up in the air, they're paying attention to the can. And that's why he gets the drop on him.
Yeah.
It's a really good scene. Nothing like that in Escape from New York. Sure.
Exactly. It's the only time you see anybody like go quickly. That was, and that would have to be the skinhead encounter, in comparison to the girl that he meets in New York to get the smoke from her. She gets clawed and pulled down. Through
as
the
soon
floor.
As the crazy start coming up out of the sewers.
That was the only one that, in reference to that, would be similar. But yeah, that's actually all I had. Everything else I have is all the interesting quotes I had taken down.
The one quote that I always remember is the whole thing about, this is the new America. There's no smoking.
I have it.
No red meat.
Yeah,
no
Malloy.
fornication unless you're married.
Yeah.
And I'm like, send me I'm right there with him. Send me off to Hollywood.
Yeah, Snake goes, "Gotta smoke." And Malloy's like, "The United States is no smoking nation.
Yeah.
No smoking, no drinking, no drugs, no women, unless, of course, you're married. No guns, no foul language, and no red meat." And
that's not an America I want to live in.
Yeah, Plissken goes, "Land of the free." But it's also very similar to another movie that we all love, and I started watching again so I could cover it. I just got to find the right person, or whoever wanted to do it, to let me know. Demolition Man.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
If you remember that with Sandra Bullock and Stallone.
Yeah.
And how
he doesn't know how to use the three clamshells.
3 seashells.
The seashells. Yeah, seashells.
I'm still trying to figure out what the third seashell was for.
I remember reading it somewhere that somebody actually said how you use it. And I think it was Reddit or something like that. And I don't remember exactly what they said, but I just thought it was interesting that they went out of their way to like figure out like, well, it works like this. And it made, at the time when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay. That'll be a discussion point at that time or in that movie. So, you already kind of mentioned it. The president going, "What's it going to be, Plissken, them or us?" And he says, "I shut down the third world, you win, they lose.
Right.
I shut down America, they win, you lose. The more things change, the more they stay the same." So I think that's the full. I pulled this from directly, so that way it would be a little bit more specific. Because sometimes if I try to write it down while I'm watching a movie, I'll get it wrong.
Oh yeah, for sure. We've all done that. You hear what you thought you wanted to hear. Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah. Or you get it backwards like I do, or you hear it in a different way. One other would be Malloy saying, "This is your last chance, hotshot." And Snake's like, "For what? Freedom." And Snake's like, in America? That died a long time ago. I had to pick the really good ones that kind of like jab to the point, you know?
Yeah. And then, of course, at the end, there's the very, I love the ending, yes. But there's also the part at the end where he actually does find, because he spends pretty much the entire movie looking for a cigarette. He finds it at the end.
Yeah.
And the pack of cigarettes says American Spirit. And that's the last cigarette that he could find. There's only one in the pack. Mm-hmm. They gave him matches earlier in the movie that he actually hung on to.
Yes.
And he actually lights it up, and he's just like looks into the camera and blows out the
it
flame.
Looks right at it. He breaks the fourth wall. Yeah. And the fact is that those were American Spirits. I think those were out before the actual American Spirits cigarettes that are out there now. So somebody might have been like, that's a great idea.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Somebody like, oh, shoot. Does anybody got a copyright on that?
Let's get it going. They're Indian based. They're American Indian based. They're all natural. No preservatives, nothing, no toxins. Actually, that's what they are actually made of. It's just pure tobacco and they don't put anything in it. No chemicals.
Probably better for you than a regular cigarette, but anyway.
That's what everybody says. Last one I have would be Brazen saying, that's Snake Plissken. And Malloy goes, what did you expect? And Brazen's like, I don't know. He just looks so retro, kind of 20th century. And Malloy goes, good old days.
Yeah.
I really did enjoy that with all those, because it's just like so wild. You can draw out some really good quotes every once in a while from some of these movies. There's a ton more. The only other thing that I did enjoy, like I said, from the movie is, since it's LA, just like with New York, in the very beginning when he gets into the sub and his travel underwater, right? We get nods to other films. You got nods to Jaws. You see the big shark. He crashes through the Hollywood sign.
And also at the time when you see the shark for Jaws, he's passing by Universal Studios.
Yes, that's
the extra one of like, it's not just there's a real shark there, but there, on the old Universal Studios tour, Jaws was always a big part of that tour. So
yeah, it was the mid '90s at that time. They still had it running and operational. They still do have it on the tour.
I'm sure
in LA, in California. I know that. As far as Florida, I'm not sure yet, but I never was. I
haven't been there in a really long time. So
yeah, I was never at the Florida one. I was in Universal twice in California, and that's about it. Thanks. But all right, I have nothing else. Do you have anything more to add?
Well, we have the interesting facts.
Yep,
nothing else for movies. Yeah,
okay. Nothing more for the movie. Okay.
Because I think a lot of the things that we would be talking about are actually here.
Okay. We won't know because, like I said, I have not read them. You want to take the first one?
All right. Interesting facts, unknown facts about the movie. Mm-hmm. It's the only time Kurt Russell has co-written a script. According to director John Carpenter, the main thing that got Escape from LA made was Kurt Russell's dogged persistence. 1981's Escape from New York was a career turning point for Russell, a former child star who hadn't played any action hero roles before. The actor was pushing for them to make their sequel for over a decade. So keen was he to play Snake Plissken a second time. Russell's feelings on the matter were so strong that for the first and to date only time, the actor became a screenwriter. Russell collaborated on the Escape from LA story and script with Carpenter and producer co-writer Deborah Hill. Carpenter had co-written the original Escape from New York with Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers in 1978's Halloween. And this is really an interesting fact because it's so true. Until Kurt Russell did Escape from New York, nobody considered him a action hero.
No,
he was the kid who wore, or the computer who wore tennis shoes.
Yeah.
He was a Disney kid. He grew up on screen playing these roles, and nobody would have taken him seriously, and I don't think they even originally took him seriously for this one. But when they chose him, they were like, they made a good choice. And after that, you could count on one hand like how many comedic or kid roles he did after that, because after that it's Tango and Cash, Soldier. There's just going down the line, it's mostly dramas and action movies for Kurt Russell after that.
Backdraft and stuff like that.
Backdraft, right. Overboard is probably like one of the few comedies that he's done that after that.
Was like a family comedy.
Right. And with and it's Goldie Hawn. So
his wife, not wife, partner for ever since 1983. They've been together.
Yeah.
So, and he has
it ain't broken, don't fix it.
He has 2 children with them. Wyatt and another one. I'm forgetting their name. But we'll move on into the next one, which is it's the only sequel John Carpenter ever directed. So I mentioned it before because I knew off the top of my head, but I didn't think I put it in here. After the success of his 1978 classic Halloween, Carpenter co-wrote and produced the first sequel of 81's Halloween 2. And Carpenter would also produce Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and more recently served as executive producer on the 2018 Halloween and its 2 forthcoming sequels. Well, this is an older fix or ad, apparently, that somebody put in here. However, Carpenter had never actually called the shots on a sequel himself until Escape from LA, nor has he directed another sequel since. This situation looks unlikely to change, given that Carpenter has pretty much retired from directing since 2010's The Ward. Sequels have also been a comparative rarity for Kurt Russell, although the actor had a bit more experience there. Russell had previously made 3 Disney comedies as a teen hero, Dexter Riley, and has since twice portrayed Mr. Nobody in Fast and the Furious movies. He's also recently played Santa Claus the second time in the Christmas Chronicles 2. So he's done, and he actually stated that he didn't want to do another one.
Right.
And he wound up doing the Christmas Chronicles 2, him and Goldie. So I think he just wants to come out. He goes, he'll play Santa Claus at any given time. He technically wants to be retired. And then he came out of retirement to be with on a show with his son, Wyatt, when he did Monarch. So.
Which Monarch is great. So, hey.
Yeah.
The original president, Donald Pleasance, died just before production began. The original Escape from New York saw Russell's Snake Plissken sent on a rescue mission into a New York City repurposed as a maximum security prison. Plisken's target was the kidnapped President of the United States, played by Donald Pleasance, who previously appeared in John Carpenter's Halloween as Dr. Loomis. Part of the Escape from LA's dystopian vision of the future, now technically our past, as it's said in 2013, is a change in the U.S. Constitution, allowing a president to serve for life.
Yeah, I forgot about that part. But yeah, life.
Yeah, he's elected president for life. It at the beginning of the movie, they go into all of that. Plus, they say he predicted the earthquake that separated Los Angeles from the rest of the country, and that's part of the reason why they elect him. Mm-hmm. So I was like, wow, I wonder why they didn't get more into that, like how he managed to make that prediction or something like that. I kind of felt like it was kind of something like he had access to, like this sort of Damocles, even though doesn't have anything to do with that. But maybe he found something like that could cause an earthquake. Anyway, that's it, getting into like conspiracy theory stuff in the with the movie. All right. So, as such, originally, the filmmakers hoped Pleasance would play the role again. This would have marked his 4th collaboration with John Carpenter, the 3rd having been 1987's Prince of Darkness, which we've discussed before. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Pleasance had to turn the part down due to his declining health, and so the role of the president instead went to Cliff Robertson. Sadly, Donald Pleasance died in February of 1995, not long before Escape from LA began production.
Yeah, it's sad. It would have been great to have him back.
Oh, yeah.
And just to think at that point and be like, wow, he has a life. He would serve for life, the president.
Right.
And God forbid if that actually happened here in the States now.
Yeah,
let's think of the amount of assassination attempts that would have to go. It's like, we just need a new president. Let's just get rid of him.
That's the real horror story.
That's the real horror story right there. For the fact that I'm glad that we allow it for like 1 4-year term, and then it could be reelected for a second term. And then after that, we've never seen anybody go for a third, I don't think.
Well, we had FDR.
FDR was like
FDR was president for, and that's the reason why it's limited to 4 years and 2 terms, because FDR was president for a really long time. I forget exactly how long, but he was president for a really long time.
Well, like 12 years.
I think it's something like that.
Oh, wow. All right. The FX team hired for the film had very little experience with CGI. Well, we could tell that now. If there's one thing that immediately sets apart 90s sci-fi movie from an 80s sci-fi movie, is the presence of computer-generated imagery. Early forms of CGI can be found in some 80s films. Example would be Tron and The Last Starfighter. Oh, 2 great films. But it wasn't until the 90s, in the wake of The Abyss and Terminator 2, that the special effects format really took off. Unfortunately, while the CGI may have seemed very exciting and state-of-the-art at the time, a lot of it looks extremely dated today. Well, like it stated, Terminator 2 could still look a bit dated, but the way they actually executed with the character, it worked. Jurassic Park still, to me, looks flawless.
Looks pretty good.
And that was the first one of its time, so it put a lot of people out of work. Or made them extinct. As Stan Winston would, if he was here today, would say the same thing. Escape from LA is no exception there. The film was widely derided at the time, and since for sporting thoroughly unconvincing CGI, which renders a number of major set pieces a bit laughable. It's not too surprising then to learn that Buena Vista Visual Effects, the company that was hired to create these sequences, had never worked with CG before. In common with a lot of effects companies trying their hand at this new technology, they didn't really know what they were doing. So Escape from LA actually wound up being the last film that Buena Vista Visual Effects ever worked on before disbanding. Wow. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even at the time when you're sitting there in the theater, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
It looks, granted, we know it's CGI.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to take the chance on, Kurt Russell killing himself trying to surf on this massive tsunami wave, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Or trying to pilot a submarine through traffic, like basically the buried or underwater freeway. There's too much of a chance the man kill himself. It had to be CGI.
Well, it's I'm sure people were in the theater going, bro, I just saw Independence Day. That had far better effects. What the hell happened here?
I was definitely one of those people who said that, but hey, it shows a lot more now. But even then, it was still something.
It was you knew what you were getting into. Honestly, when you didn't think it was a huge budgeted film
exactly
like that. So honestly, I actually expected it and forewarned my girlfriend at that time, and I said it to Jared, saying, "Bro, I don't think this is gonna be as great as we think, but we're gonna get the typical Snake Plissken that we always love." And he goes, yeah. And then the girl that he was dating at the time was just like, what was that?
Yeah.
I was like, well, don't hang out with us anymore.
if you can manage to keep your girlfriend as a girlfriend after those movies, then More power to you.
I did for a while. So,
all right. A scene from the movie was played in court when a stuntman was on trial for murder. A year after Escape from LA hit screens, a stuntman who worked on the movie went on trial for murder. Wayne Montano was arrested and charged with the murder of his brother, Dondi Montano. The court heard that Wayne had committed credit card fraud under his brother's name and that Dondi had subsequently threatened to inform the police. Footage from Escape from LA was shown in the courtroom to help an eyewitness identify Montano. This proved enough for the witness to effectively place the stuntman at the scene of the crime. Montano was ultimately found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole.
wow.
Right?
The things you learn.
Yeah, exactly.
I take this stuff up. I did not know that. All right. Carpenter wanted to shoot in Disneyland, but was denied access.
Nice.
Some scenes in Escape from LA take place in what was once a theme park. Originally, the filmmakers had hoped to set these scenes in the location that inspired them, Disneyland. However, Disney would not give the filmmaker access to shoot there or permission to use the name, hence the little thing I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Because of this, they were forced to make up a fictitious theme park named Happy Kingdom, a clear play on Disneyland's Magic Kingdom. Bonus trivia: the set used for Happy Kingdom is Courthouse Square, an old, widely used set on the Universal Studios lot. Oh, okay. I thought wrong. I thought it was Magic Mountain. All right. The set was most famously used or utilized as Hill Valley Town Square in the Back to the Future movie, as well in Gremlins. Awesome. So that's cool. So you could go back and use that. So Sean Clark or Adam DeWoo, if they ever go back and they have to talk about where stuff was shot, they could utilize this. I'm probably going to say something to Sean. He'll be like, dude, I already knew that.
Nice. All right. Kurt Russell's son makes a brief uncredited appearance. There's a brief moment in Escape from LA when Kurt Russell's Snake Plissken passes an orphan boy in a cap. This was the first screen appearance of Wyatt Russell, the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. This was not the last time the young Russell appeared in one of his father's films. Later, Wyatt briefly appeared as the 11-year-old version of his father's character Todd in 1998's Soldier, another underrated, awesome Kurt Russell movie, Soldier.
Yes.
In the years since, Wyatt Russell has gone on to become a successful actor in his own right. His films include 22 Jump Street, Everybody Wants Some, and Overlord. He'll soon be seen in Disney Plus Marvel series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Like I said, these are older people, but he already did that, and he is in the MCU, which is cool, just like his father, who played Ego. So I look forward to seeing Wyatt in the next Marvel. I believe it's the Thunderbolts that he'll be in.
Yeah.
But we're also getting more.
Agent.
Yeah. And yeah. What is it? US Agent?
USA Agent.
Okay. So, yeah. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm not sure if he's coming back in Monarch, because it was a different version of that character other than Kurt's character. He was like, they might go back in time, who knows, or they might just continue with the cast. Like I said, it's still early on, but we did get Wyatt. We're going to get more Wyatt Russell in time. It's funny too about him being in the film, because I've already heard that before from somebody else. Somebody had told me that, and I was like, oh, okay. So when I read this,
like if you blink, you missed it.
Yeah, that is true. All right, it was critical and it was a critical and commercial failure. So the reaction to Escape from LA was not quite what the filmmakers had been hoping for. The sequel was met with largely negative reviews, with widespread complaints that it was too cartoonish and too much of a facsimile of Escape from New York. Worse yet, audiences stayed away in droves. Having cost $50 million to make, Escape from LA wound up earning only $25 $25.5 million back at the box office. Well, apparently I got something that recalculated overall what it made over the years, but regardless, it still made less money than the movie was. This marked the start of a career downturn for both Carpenter and Russell. Carpenter only directed 3 more films: Vampires, Ghosts of Mars, and The Ward, all of which were made on far lower budgets than Escape from LA. But that is his forte anyway, as far as his work is concerned, because even Halloween was a low budget film and it garnered so much. In the Mouth of Madness wasn't that huge as far as and how much it cost. Prince of Darkness, They Live, and Big Trouble in Little China were also very low budgeted films, and he had to do those 3 films in order to get the bigger budget film within that year.
Pretty much every one of those movies is a cult favorite now.
Yes. I think it was like Village of the Damned that came out that was bigger budgeted because you had major actors in it. Meredith Salinger,
yeah, that's the one with
Christopher Reeve. Yeah. So they were able to do that, and it was a remake of a British classic, which I do enjoy too. But all right, so to continue on, not to be off track. Meanwhile, Russell's next major film was Soldier. Was an expensive flop, and the actor retreated from big budget leading roles for several years.
And that's a shame because, again, Soldier is a very underrated movie. It's a fantastic film. And I think his acting in it is top notch. So,
yeah, it's like people who talk bad and crap about Universal Soldier, but it became a cult classic and hit with Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
All right. A planned 3rd film became Ghosts of Mars. Initially, there had been plans for a 3rd Snake Plissken movie entitled Escape from Mars. As conceived, this film would have been taken Kurt Russell's antihero out of our world and onto the Red Planet. However, when Escape from LA flopped hard with both audiences and critics, this idea was scrapped. Instead, the script was reworked into what ultimately became John Carpenter's 2001 film, Ghosts of Mars. Ice Cube's character, trash-talking anti-hero Desolation Williams, effectively takes the place of Snake Plissken. Alas, Ghosts of Mars was also a critical and commercial failure, and Carpenter went into semi-retirement afterwards. Again, another underrated film that I really do enjoy.
Yeah.
There actually are nods to Snake Plissken in the movie because Desolation Williams, the way he's dressed, he's got the camo pants on and black top, and he basically is dressed as Snake Plissken.
A cooler, hipper, rapping Snake Plissken. I did enjoy that movie. I thought Ice Cube was really good in it. I really liked Natasha Henstridge in that movie too.
He's definitely angrier in that one.
That he is. But I highly recommend it too. So if you guys have never seen it, suggest it. It would be a good small movie night that you guys could do. Next up, John Carpenter still thinks it's better than Escape from New York. Okay, that confuses me, but all right.
I was just thinking to myself, I'd have to disagree on that one, but okay.
I would have to be on a panel and talk to him about that. Despite the negative response from fans and critics, director John Carpenter has said that he considers Escape from LA to be the superior of the 2 Snake Plissken films. Carpenter has said that he considers Escape from LA to be 10 times better than Escape from New York. The director and co-writer argues that the follow-up film is more mature and has a lot more to it than its predecessor. Mature? Okay. I'm confused. He also suggests that some people didn't like it because they felt it was a remake, not a sequel. Carpenter dismisses the film's critical and commercial failure as a reflection of its quality, pointing out that Escape from LA made more money than The Thing, the 1982 sci-fi horror, which many consider his masterpiece. I do. I do. Can't like address that anymore. The director suggested in 2015 that we should give it a few more years before Escape from LA will be reassessed and revalued as his earlier films have been. Carpenter says, "You must wait. You've got to give me a little while. People will say, you know what was wrong with me?" Okay.
And he's partially right in that I'm sure there's a lot of people who maybe saw it in the theater, didn't like it, right? But on future watchings, they realized, wait, this is not a bad film. It's not as I disagree again that it's as good as Escape from New York. I don't think so, especially 10 times better. Okay. I think we've got different ideas of what 10 times is. But I respect the hell out of him. If he ever listens to this, and I just respectfully don't feel that that's the same. Yeah, and I agree. It's definitely something where people will watch it later and say it is a good movie, and come to appreciate it as a cult classic, like a lot of his other films. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Isaac Hayes wanted to return as the son of the Duke of New York. Kurt Russell was the only actor from the original Escape from New York to return in the sequel. The only other key surviving characters were Donald Pleasant's President and Lee Van Cleef's Houck. However, Pleasance was, as previously mentioned, too ill to return, and Van Cleef had already passed away in 1989. One other key actor from the original was keen to come back, Isaac Hayes, who played the villainous Duke of New York. John Carpenter recalls that Hayes approached him. He had this elaborate storyline concocted in which he was the son of the Duke of New York. I didn't go for it. As disappointing as this must have been for Hayes, the actor and music legend would enjoy a career resurgence 1 year after Escape from LA as the voice of Chef on TV's South Park. Yeah.
It's funny. I couldn't see it. Son of the Duke. He could just be Duke again, but Duke got killed at the end.
Right.
So
Duke was pretty clearly killed.
Yes, I know.
He was shot full of a lot of bullets.
Yeah, but it would show in his age at that point too, unless Isaac Hayes
exactly.
does go back in time. All right.
There's
Kurt
no
Russell.
de-aging technology back then either.
Yeah, exactly. Kurt Russell wore a see-through eye patch to avoid headaches. Interesting. Snake Plissken's signature eye patch was originally the suggestion of Kurt Russell himself back on Escape from New York. However, the actor soon discovered the pitfalls of this piece of costume. Suffering headaches after wearing the patch for a long time because of this, Russell ensured that steps were taken to make things more comfortable on the sequel. The actor would often wear a slightly transparent patch, which he comfortably see through, particularly when he wasn't being shot in close-up. On top of this, Russell would not unreasonably take to removing the patch entirely between takes. Russell played one other character that required an eye patch. The title role in 1994's comedy, Captain Ron.
That's right.
I forgot about that.
I forgot about Captain Ron.
That was a cute movie, too.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Steve Buscemi only took his role to fund his first film as a director. Actor Steve Buscemi rose to fame in the 90s after his scene-stealing turn in Quentin Tarantino's first film, Reservoir Dogs. Buscemi followed this with roles in such acclaimed films as Fargo and Tarantino's second feature, Pulp Fiction. Soon, Buscemi decided he wanted to try his hand at writing and directing a film his own. The actor has admitted this was the key reason he signed on to play Map to the Stars Eddie in Escape from LA. Buscemi used his salary from the film to help finance Trees Lounge, his first film as writer-director. Buscemi has clocked up a further 16 credits as director since, including 3 feature films and numerous TV episodes. That's cool.
All right. This
I never
next
seen
one.
Trees Launch. You ever see that one?
No, I actually have. I've known this because he was involved with I think the first thing he had done.
Right.
I don't know if he was a producer, but the first movie he was involved with, he was involved. He was more into like creating movies or producing and directing and stuff like that. So, and I know that first movie was independent. But yeah,
I've heard of it.
I've heard of it, never saw it. This next one is interesting. So Carpenter and Russell rejected the original script for being, quote unquote, too campy, which makes me and Frank chuckle for the fact that there's a lot of tongue in cheek and jokes in this, and it shows camp to it. So I don't know. Escape from LA didn't hit screens until 15 years after Escape from New York, but has been in development for some time. Originally, John Carpenter and Kurt Russell had hired screenwriter Coleman Luck to pen the follow-up, which they'd already decided to set in LA. However, the story that Luck came up with did not line up with what Carpenter and Russell had in mind, and was, in the director's words, too campy. Rather than seeing LA repurposed as a prison in line with the original, Luck's script made LA an oversized lunatic asylum. The sequel script also hinged on a climactic revelation that the Snake Plissken scene in the previous film was really a clone. Okay. Carpenter's dissatisfaction with the script almost derailed Escape from LA altogether until Russell suggests they try writing it themselves. Well, that was a better choice, I would say. And I in an alternate universe, I'm sure that movie probably didn't do well either with the Snake Plissken clone.
I don't think that would have flown very well with any Snake Plissken fan.
No.
Or fan. It would have said, what? That's
what?
It's like being told that Anakin Skywalker was a great fighter and a great pilot, and then we get a movie where he's a 10-year-old kid. So you know what I mean? So you had something in your head and you're like, no.
That is true.
Okay. Next one. Russell's stepdaughter, Kate Hudson, turned down the role of Utopia. Snake Plissken is sent into LA to locate Utopia, the daughter of the president, who has betrayed her father and stolen the controls to a deadly space-bound weapon. The role of Utopia is taken by A.J. Langer, best known at the time for her role in TV's My So-Called Life. However, at the audition stage, another actress was up for the part with no credits to her name at the time, Kate Hudson. Hudson is, of course, Kurt Russell's stepdaughter, with his long-term partner, Goldie Hawn. The actor was keen to cast her as Utopia, but Hudson herself decided against it. Russell recalls she made her decision, that role in a movie that starring in, maybe not. And she talked it over with Goldie. She talked it over with me. And she ended up saying, nah, I guess this isn't the way to start. Hudson would go on to make a name for herself with her Oscar-nominated performance in Almost Famous.
Yeah, she was smart too.
Idea.
Wait. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like, oh, you were in your dad's flopped movie.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, she made a name for herself and it worked. The next one, they couldn't shoot action scenes through the night because nearby residents complained about the noise. Well, I know a lot of people had that issue in Sonoy during The Walking Dead. Right. They had to get a small community and people had to have sign-offs. And, I heard that somebody complained about one of the explosions during one season, but all right. You don't have to watch Escape from LA too closely to notice that one specific detail, the total absence of sunlight. The film takes place entirely at night, and as such, it was shot by night as well, And this caused a bit of an issue when it came to shooting some of the bigger, noisier action sequences. In the book, John Carpenter, Prince of Darkness, the director recalls, everything went smoothly until we started gunfire, at which point residents of the nearby neighborhood became incredibly pissed off. Carpenter and company were ultimately told we could only shoot gunfire sequences up to midnight, which gave them barely 4.5 hours each evening to shoot complex action scenes. This, the director explains, was not enough time. The entire shooting schedule went to shit. It was hideous chaos. Carpenter says things were exacerbated when he fell ill. He goes, I got the flu and I was walking around the set like one of George Romero's zombies.
That's awesome. But that's interesting. I mean, I feel like if you're shooting in that area, I guess you don't want to have people having to worry about gunshots after 12 midnight.
When they were filming A Quiet Place up by where I used to live, my mom was away for something. I think she went to go see my uncle out in Oklahoma, and they were still filming for like 3 months. But it was the night shot where he had to shoot off the shotgun. Now they're about 1,500 feet away from my house. What did I hear at like 11:30, 12 o'clock in the morning? And I had to get up the next morning, not early, but I had to get a flight to LA,
Right.
not LA, Atlanta, for a convention and stuff to hang out with friends. And next thing you know,
Bang, bang.
bang, bang. They did the shot 3 times. Bad enough that when they do film, everybody, just a little tidbit of what I noticed. Even if it was a night shot, they had a light that was on a pole. I would say that pole had to be up about close to 100 feet.
Wow.
And it projected light down so they could do their night shots. So because instead of lighting directly from the side, they were doing it from the top. So you would see this light on at night when they filmed at night, because the majority of A Quiet Place was done at night. A lot of the key scenes, but it's crazy. Yeah.
Right. Kurt Russell and Bruce Campbell had the same stunt double. It might not be immediately obvious to all the viewers that Escape from LA features a cameo from cult film icon Bruce Campbell. The Evil Dead series actor, at the height of his fame in the 90s after Army of Darkness, appears in the movie under heavy makeup as the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills. This marked the first time that Campbell had acted alongside Kurt Russell, but the two men already shared a common link. Stuntman John Casino had doubled for both Russell and Campbell in many of their previous works. Casino stood in for Russell on films including Tango and Cash, Backdraft, and Unlawful Entry, and doubled Campbell on Evil Dead 2 and TV's The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. Casino would go on to double for Russell and Campbell in many more films afterwards, on top of which Russell and Campbell themselves would share the screen again in Sky High.
Yeah, that was a Disney film, everybody. And
it's actually a pretty good Disney film. It's about superheroes.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's cute. And the funniest is during when they were filming Escape from LA, this is something that I knew because I listened to the audio commentary with on Evil Dead 2, as well as, or no, just regular Evil Dead, maybe. Or was it Evil Dead 2? I'm forgetting which. But regardless, Kurt Russell had stated it on the Thing commentary about how he spoke to Bruce about it when they were working on Escape from LA.
Right.
He goes, say those words. What? Work shed. Because it was a bad overdub. And I think it was Evil Dead 2. I could be wrong. but he goes, just say it. And he goes, why? Because apparently Wyatt was obsessed with, or one of his sons was old enough, was obsessed with the
Evil Dead.
with the overdub on it. And they
Nice.
both mention it in both those commentaries separately. Because Bruce would mention that Kurt Russell asked him on set of, and then that during the thing when they were doing that, he was talking about bad editing or bad dubbing, and then something that was brought up was this as well, which is so funny. So they mention it. I think they re-released Escape from LA on 4K Blu-ray, so there might be a documentary. I do not know. But check it out. But currently, right now, if you haven't watched it, watch it on Max. It's on the app.
Yeah, it's on Max right now. Yeah.
So, all right, next one.
All right. President was modeled. I'm sorry.
You read the last one, right? Yeah, you did.
Yes, I did. You're right.
I'll do this one. Whatever. The president was modeled on televangelist Pat Robertson. Okay. Escape from LA's President Cliff Robertson stands on a platform of morality and seeks to outlaw everything that is deemed immoral. By all accounts, the character and his ideology were very much the brainchild of Kurt Russell himself. Russell is said to have based the president of Pat Robertson, a U.S. televangelist and political commentator. Robertson had been an influential Christian broadcaster for many years and unsuccessfully campaigned as a Republican candidate for the presidency in 1988. Carpenter says that Russell's idea was the president would be worshipped as a deity by obsessive followers after predicting the earthquake that turns Los Angeles into an island. The director explains, Kurt said, let's have some idiot predict something that happens and everyone thinks he's some sort of god. Huh.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. So to stay away from other things that are going on in the world, that's kind of a scary thought given what's happening right now.
Yeah, very true.
But anyway, I mean, I think it's interesting, but just some of the stuff that he's talking about there, it's like, wow, foreshadowing, like big time.
Yeah, in real life. Yeah. It's when, what is it? It's kind of like when Star Trek and they have it predicts what we have in reality with all the technology they have,
right?
Than we have now. So the
communicators are cell phones, and
this is predicting the same thing for us. All right, don't watch a lot of movies, then everybody, you'll get scared.
yeah, exactly. All right, Kurt Russell shot all those hoops for real. That's a new one. I didn't know that.
Same here.
One of the more outlandish moments in a movie, already filled with outlandish surfing, hang gliding, etc. Hang gliders with machine guns on them, folks. Machine guns. Anyway, comes when Kurt Russell's Snake Plissken is forced to play basketball to the death. Plissken is informed that if he doesn't shoot the requisite amount of hoops within the time allotted, he will be shot and killed. As ridiculous any idea as it may seem, or as ridiculous an idea as it may seem, Kurt Russell took the challenge of the scene very seriously. While editing is of course involved, and Russell didn't literally shoot all those hoops one after another, there is no trickery involved. The actor literally made all those shots himself. This includes the especially eye-opening final shot of the sequence from one end of the court to the other. So he made that shot for real. Awesome.
Awesome.
By all accounts, anytime Russell had free time in the run-up to shooting that sequence, he was spent practicing on the basketball court. Cool. With that level of skill, it's not too surprising that Russell, in fact, once played sports professionally, although in real life, his game was baseball.
Yeah, that is true.
Nice.
It's pretty funny too about that shot. You know what it always reminds me when he does that one long throw and it's so far away. There's a scene in Alien Resurrection when Sigourney Weaver does the shot, and what sucks is that they talk about this on the commentary of that, and she talks about it, and then they talked about it in some other. There's some other places to talk and discuss it. She literally made the shot. She shoots it with her back facing the hoop from a distance, and it goes right in. Now the ball is always off camera when it goes up.
Yes.
And it does come back down and go into the hoop. But the thing is that they said there's no photo tricky in that. It really did happen. She really did do that. I think the director
and the reaction of the people in the cast
was real.
With her, like it's a real reaction. They saw that and they were like, whoa.
Yeah. And then on top of that with Kurt Russell, that shot itself was crazy. So I'm wondering how often did he had to practice that one alone, because that's a far shot to do with one hand from a long distance. All right, the last one. Russell says the film is just about a guy who wants a cigarette. Escape from LA is quite close in spirit to Sylvester Stallone's Demolition Man. Already made that comparison, thanks, in the way it envisions the future. Both films see the political correctness and health consciousness of the early 90s taken to an extreme, as outlined in the opening moments of the Escape from LA trailer. This dystopian future sees literally anything that could be potentially hazardous to health made illegal. This, of course, includes Snake Plissken's vice of choice, nicotine, and according to Kurt Russell, this is the character's main motivation. Strong-armed into his missions, Plissken only goes along with it because, as Russell says, he wants to be left alone, allowed to smoke. Russell, who had not long since quit smoking when he made the movie, declared, "It's just about a guy who wants to have a cigarette. At the end of the movie, he just wants you to get out of his face." Oh, hilarious. Oh, wow.
And that's that is why at the very end of the movie, like I said, he just finds that cigarette, which I gave more credence to because it's the American spirit thing and stuff like that, and it's all been outlawed, and it's just his way of saying, I'm going to sit here, smoke this cigarette after I've gone ahead and I've sent you all back to the Stone Age, and y'all just going to have to suck it. So,
yeah.
But hey, there were other deeper things there that we didn't see. So.
Oh, all right. Well, we're at that moment in the podcast of, well, where can listeners hear you?
I'm generally on what is or what was called Fantasy Movie Picks, right? Fancy Picks Movie Edition. We are currently on a little hiatus and retooling, but we will be back. And when they come back, that's where I can be heard, or anytime that you need me to be on Panels to Pixels or Adrenaline, I'm more than happy, to have a discussion.
Yeah, you've heard Frank before here when we did Escape from New York. He's been on Panels to Pixels podcast as well, so you could hear him there, as well as Fantasy Picks Movie Edition. Rob is taking a break, as he says, as Frank stated. So yeah, we're just waiting for the retooling. It might be under the moniker of Fantasy Picks Movie Edition and have several different things under that, where, Rob could do his composer talk. Frank could kill us with all the weird B movies that are out there and surprise
the list
us.
is getting so long.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of stuff out there for you in that content on that. As always, you could hear me here on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. As always, I have more things in the works. It's just a matter of finding people, the scheduling, all that good stuff. Jamie and I will definitely be doing Friday the 13th, part 4, the coverage on that because, well, we just finished up Invincible on the other podcast that I do, which is Panels to Pixels podcast. So we finished up season 2 of Invincible, but you could also hear me on the Monarch cast or Wilhelm / Podcastica coverage of Monarch that we did back in December. You could hear me. What's coming up for Podcastica would be about it's a new Sandman based show, and I don't want to butcher the name of it, but I forgot what it's called. It's literally something about investigation of ghosts. I just said yes to it, so I don't remember. But when it comes out at the end of April, I'll be watching it and I'll be covering it with Jamie. First person look. Also, you could look forward to when I still have to arrange interview with a vampire for that movie with Rima, Lara, myself, and Danny. And congratulations to Danny for being Mr. Gay Fresno. He got that award last week. So congratulations to Danny Espinola. And yeah, we'll be back with that and just get in touch here as always. For you to send your feedback, even though I did not advertise this. I think I advertised it a long time ago. We just haven't gotten anything. I haven't seen anything. Didn't see any emails, any comments on the Facebook page. But if you need to, and you want to say something that you liked, you didn't like, you want us to cover, you want to be on, just let us know. All you have to do is go to our Facebook page, which will be facebook.com/AdrenalineCinemaPodcast. There you could find, like I said, an image of the topic that we're covering. And then you just leave your comments down below, or you can message us directly, like through Facebook Messenger. You could also email us, and you just send that email to AdrenalineCinemaPodcast@gmail.com. There you can write out your thoughts. We'll read them on the podcast. It doesn't necessarily have to happen at the time when we cover that movie, but it'd be greatly appreciated. If you feel like you don't want to write out your thoughts, you want to just record yourself. Everybody has these cool, nifty devices. You could just talk into, record it, and then send it as an attachment. And then you yourself could be part of the podcast at the very end when we play your thoughts on the movie that we're covering or show that we're covering as well. So with that, we could not only could be found on Facebook, but I do everything with Instagram as well. So it's the same thing. Adrenaline Cinema Podcast on Instagram. So just follow that. And same thing with YouTube. All you have to do is go to YouTube, search for Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, subscribe, like what we're doing, and ring the bell to be notified. It's basically another way for you to hear the podcast. They do offer podcasting through YouTube, apparently. So check that out. And we've been getting a lot of listeners here and there for Panels to Pixels. If there's a rating or review on any of the podcast players of choice that you use, please do so, preferably Apple or Spotify, which we can be found on over 30 of these apps right now. So check that out. And then, as always, we ask you to tell a friend because word of mouth gets us noticed along the way.
Oh, yeah.
So, and as well, being with this podcast, being on the Pirate Core Entertainment website, you could find out all the other podcasts like Fantasy Picks Movie Edition or Watched It in the 80s. So you could check that out. So all you have to do is go to piratecoreentertainment.com and check out all the other stuff that's there. I'm still trying to work out the idea of getting Panels to Pixels on that. But
gotcha.
It's been so long. I need a long vacation in order to do that.
Yeah.
But other than that,
got a lot of things going on, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm sorry, people. There's a lot of the holidays got a little crazy. I had issues at work where a couple of my friends got laid off. Whole slew of events and things happen. So, but we are back. But you look forward to more content coming up. That I believe we covered a lot of Escape from LA, and I had fun doing so. So I just want to thank Frank.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I just want to thank Frank for like coming on and having fun talking about this. And I want to thank everybody out there for listening too. So I'm Mark.
And I'm Frank.
And this was Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. And we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.